Hey everyone, welcome to Out of the Spotlight. This episode is going to be a little different, and I know this is usually a fun show, but I'm sad right now. The world lost a light, my dear friend of 12 years, Grant Wahl. But the outpouring love for him has been overwhelming and so beautiful to see. He deserves it. I know he would be so thankful for all of our kind words, and then he would compliment each one of us with something because that's just who he was. The kindest heart, the most giving soul, and someone who would believe in you so much. To meet Grant was to have a loyal friend for life. His love for soccer was admirable and so contagious. He was an important key in growing the game in America, one of the greatest advocates of American soccer. I met Grant back in 2010 at an MLS event, of course, and my best friend and former pro soccer player, Temryss Lane, was there as well. We actually met Grant together at the same time, and everything changed for the better. So I figured that Temryss would be the perfect person to chat about Grant Wahl with me. So I'm looking forward to talking about all the good stuff. So Temryss Lane, welcome to Out of the Spotlight. Let's do this.
It's so beautiful, the tribute for Grant. I'm honored to be here, and yeah, it's been heavy on our hearts. Learning the news of Grant's passing. Been thinking so much about Dr. Celine, his wife, who he loved so much, and he made it abundantly clear in all the ways that he uh, visibly supported her, and that was just what we could see. So our hearts are with Grant's wife, brother, family, loved ones, and really the soccer world in America and globally. So yeah, thanks for having me, Steph. It's good to be here with you.
Of course. Thank you so much. And it's so crazy. You know, you just mentioned Dr. Celine. I mean, their love, they were literally like the couple, right? It's just so crazy. And even just now talking about Grant this way, like past tense, like it still hasn't hit me. Such a kind person. And he's like the one person that I feel like I would always make time to like look at his stories, look at his content. Such a trustworthy person when it came to the beautiful game. And on Friday, it was like, I don't know, 10 p.m. And I looked at like two stories. I think it might have been yours and his. And he was at the game, Argentina, Netherlands game. And I looked at two of his stories. The third one was like a post that he shared about a video he had done, an interview. And I hearted it. I exited the app, and then I just like kind of like went to the left, you know, where the news section pops up. It was like kind of like an accident, to be honest. And I saw his picture, and immediately I thought, oh, like maybe a story he did went viral, or like, you know, maybe he did an article. And then I just read dead at 48, and I froze. Like I literally froze. Like I was just like, no, like I just looked at his stories. I just wished him a happy birthday yesterday, and or the day before, and he had replied on Thursday. And I was like, this is like, no, there's no way. I had no emotion. Like I literally just froze. And of course, you go to social media, right? That's kind of like now like that will tell you if it's true or not. And then I saw the comments, and then I saw people posting, and I was just like it took me a few minutes to actually for it to hit me. Yeah, and I texted you immediately because I know how important he was to you.
Like what happened? And there's a lot of speculation around his time in Qatar, and of course the video that his brother posted, Eric Wahl, around his advocacy for LGBTQIA plus, and showing up to the stadium with a rainbow on his shirt, being detained for 20 plus minutes. I believe it was the same stadium. Probably have to fact check that, but yeah. And so I think that sparked a lot of suspicion, especially because of what Grant also published the day before around his coverage of the mistreatment and human rights abuses against migrant workers to make World Cup happen, and not just in the building of it, but I think the article I read of his that was the day previous was about how a Filipino migrant worker had just died at Saudi Arabia's training camp and how it was just dismissed. So he was definitely writing things and making public and making more visible these terrible things that were happening throughout the World Cup and, well before, and those challenges. And I think that really just leads me into, I smile because Grant was always about the richness of sport. And his career starting in basketball,
Yeah.
having reached the likes of Kevin Durant and LeBron James, spending time with them, to the best footballers to ever, you know, grace the pitches of
Yeah.
American soccer. Every player has a story about how Grant impacted their lives. Every top level international, both women and men. And my personal experience with Grant, as I started out as a true rookie Fox football phone in 2009, and that transpired into more of broadcasting for media and becoming more of a storyteller around culture of the beautiful game and growing the game globally, was that Grant was a huge supporter from the beginning. And I
Yes.
can't say the same for so many pundits, so many fans of the game. It was a wild ride being a young woman in
Yeah.
soccer in the 2010s, essentially, as it was just getting kicked off. There weren't that many female
Female.
reporters.
Yeah.
You were one of the few that I encountered in working on the front lines of football here in the United States. And Grant always shared his story, his encouragement. He was excited to spend time with each of us, and
Yeah.
that felt really validating, coming from someone like Grant Wahl, because of who he is, the stories he's told, the ways in which he's added visibility to soccer in America and grown the game here. And I think about how he digs deeper. He asks those hard questions because this game is really about life. And he wrote about those stories, and he continued to write about those stories even when it caused him to be detained at the stadium, or he wasn't fearful. This is all a bit shocking because you hear about journalists going overseas, and you don't think of sports writing as being dangerous.
Yeah.
And perhaps it wasn't in this circumstance. Perhaps he truly was really ill from whatever bronchial infection that he reported having, and that ultimately led to his death. We won't know.
Yeah.
What we know is what he shared. What we know is what people on the ground reported. Um,
Yeah.
but it's all shocking because of the speculation and the things that he was writing about, um,
Yeah.
the things that he was showing up for actually in his physical self with a rainbow shirt on. So
Yeah.
I just I have so much love for Grant, and he clearly, Twitter sphere went nuts on just an outpouring of love. And the words that I saw repeatedly were generosity, kindness, generous, kind, loving, um, funny, like just all the deep, meaningful words of someone that you would describe as just one of the best humans. And so we miss you, Grant. I haven't seen you in a while. I had the opportunity to see you at one of the Seattle soccer events, and I'm glad that I did.
Oh, I love that. You nailed it. I mean, he was just such a kind heart. Like, he was just someone that, like, the way I would describe him is such a supporter. Like, you could have, like, I don't know, tweeted or posted that you were going to start, I don't know, like a lemonade stand outside your garage. And he would be the first person to message you and be like, heck yes, you go get it. You do it. And by the way, if you ever run out of lemons, I'm here. Let me know. That's who he was. Like your number one cheerleader. Nothing was too small. And that's what I'm going to, miss the most. And it didn't take much to walk into a room and see him and be like, yeah, he's pretty iconic. And such a kind human being who believed in the game so much, and he believed in these players so much. It was unconditional love. And the way he told the stories and the way that he just had a way with words. And he was about building that relationship between the game, the fans, the culture, and the communities.
Yeah, that epitomizes Grant Wahl.
Yeah. Let's talk about like, what do you remember when we met him? Like, what do you remember about that?
Gosh, I think your memory is a little bit better than mine. I have to admit. I know so my earliest memories of Grant were also when it came to Fox Soccer Channel.
Yeah.
Because he became an early contributor. I'm pretty sure we had him on a segment or two of Fox Football Phone In, Eric Winalda, Nick Webster, and I. And he's so brilliant in his words and his ways. And I remember, I believe, and I could be wrong, but I believe he started television around the same time that I did, because he'd been writing for a while.
Yeah.
But I remember he started contributing to Fox Soccer in these particular moments. And that was just my perception. I remember it was like suddenly he was doing broadcasting.
Sounds about right.
Having him on camera, he's got such, like you said, passion and love for the game, and his vibrant energy and the way he tells stories, and you know, he's iconic, like you said. He's got his own person and character, and it's just great to hear his voice and see his bald head on there, just like sharing story and talking football and doing it with a huge smile on his face.
Yes, always.
And he would speak about the hardest issues with endearment, but also with love, and that's what compassion. And that's what that smile, and that's what I hold in thinking about Grant. Yeah. And so that was like one of my earlier memories. And I, of course, remember at the multitude of MLS Cup mixers or whatever it is. Is that when we saw him? And
It was, I think it was 2010 MLS Cup when we first encountered him, right? I think.
Was that in Houston?
It was no, it was LA. It was LA.
Oh,
and
LA.
Yeah, it was LA. It was like November. And here's the thing. I have a bad memory too, but there are certain moments that are unforgettable for me. And I remember, oh gosh, this is like behind the scenes scoop. So I remember that event. I can't believe I'm about to tell the story, but I remember like you all of a sudden, like you needed tickets to go to this event. It was like the night before MLS Cup. And you were like, we have one ticket. And you were like, here, let's see what happens. Like, you know, worst case, maybe they're selling or someone has a ticket. So both you and I go. And for some reason, we were like on time, like, which is something that you don't usually do when you're going to an event, but we were on time. And we walk in, we're like, okay, there's a guy at the door. Let's just see what happens. And the guy's like, sup, go in. And we're like, oh, okay. You don't even want to see my one ticket? Like, really? Like, are you sure? Oh. And we walk in and like, there's like, I mean, like, I think it's just a bunch of players there. And we're like, okay, this is just getting, like, we're early. And then I see him, and obviously I knew who he was, but he was with some people that we knew, and he right away introduces himself as if we wouldn't know who he was. And just the most down to earth. He could have been so different, you know, with all just his name and the work under his belt. But he was just like, no, well, let me introduce you to everyone. And he started introducing both of us, I remember, to people. And he was not that's the thing. I feel like he was never a stranger. Like, it was never like, it was just, I felt like we had been friends for forever. And so much love for, I also believe, just our work. And like you mentioned, there were not many female reporters in the soccer world at that time. And it could have easily been a lonely place for us as women. But for him, it was just like, oh, like you love soccer, I love soccer, we're a family.
I also think he had this profound vision for recognizing the power of global football
Mm-hmm.
and the ways in which, and he wrote about it, right, in the Beckham experiment. He's written about it a
Yeah.
million times from multiple perspectives. I was thinking a lot about it in this last couple days, and I was like, I think he had this profound love for soccer. He recognized the power in the game, how you can access this multitude of stories that are socioeconomic, political, that are deeply embedded in cultures. And when he saw people like you and I,
Mm-hmm.
um, who have our different relationships with the game, our different backgrounds,
Yeah.
and positions working. You were at Dynamo at the time, and I was at Fox Soccer,
Yeah.
and he was seeing that we shared this love and this forward momentum for the growth of the game here,
Yeah.
and he was going to do everything that without thinking about it. Wasn't necessarily like a
Like
conscious thought.
calculated. Yeah.
Yeah, not at all. It was like, I'm going to do everything to support this shared love that we have.
Yes.
And in that, he always treated me with the utmost respect. He motivated me. He shared stories. I have a story about Grant when I went to the World Cup Brazil. And obviously, he was there. And I was covering a story around Chris Wondolowski as the first Native American to ever play at a World Cup and for the United States. And we were going up to Manaus, which was the Amazonia. It was where it was on where the Rio Negro and the Amazon River met. I'll never forget it because we went out onto the river on a boat. And the reason I was able to get out on the river and travel to go visit a tribe, an indigenous tribe, the Tatuyo tribe, was because Grant, I was just telling him about the story I was, uh, working towards, and this mini doc that we put together ultimately for MLS, with Juice Grove Films. And I even interviewed him about Chris Wondolowski, I think when we were in Sao Paulo. And he said, "Hey, you got to reach out to this guy. He's essentially a fixer. He can hook you up with a native man, an indigenous man down there who will, who will take you, or like knows more about the area and the people of the area, the indigenous people of the area." And so because of that, because of Grant's relationships that essentially span the globe, right?
Yeah.
The years and the relationships that he brings to his friends and colleagues and soccer in America really have helped tell the stories that connect us to global football. And essentially we ended up taking this little boat out to down the Rio Negro, and where those rivers meet,
Oh.
you can see it's really interesting because there's two different, they come from different places, and you can see the divide, like where you're in the river.
Oh,
You can see,
cool.
okay, this is where the Amazon is, and this is where the Rio Negro is. And Rio Negro is called that because it's the color of Coca-Cola. And then
Oh,
the
okay.
Amazon River is more like river water. It's a little more yellow and brown, but you can see the line in the water, like this divide. It's really interesting. It's like a science experiment with different minerals. So I'll never forget that. And we took the boat out to, an hour down the river, and met with these people. And I played a game of Fuji ball with the men,
Of
because I
course you
think
would.
and they were like, I think, I can't remember how we divided the team, but it was so fun.
Mm.
And that was all thanks to Grant. I will never forget. That was a shared, and that was the thing with him, is he didn't hoard relationships. He didn't
Yes.
hoard contacts. He offered what he had for the betterment of those around him and for soccer in America and football globally. Just really huge impacts. Kaishka, Grant, thank you. And let me.
I love that. I had no idea. Like, that's the thing about Grant. I feel like we all have these stories that, like you said, he wasn't about hoarding contacts or saying, no, like this person, only I get to talk to them or whatnot. He was about bringing people together. And he knew that we all were on different paths, right? And he knew that. And he was there to just kind of bridge us together, or kind of like, what do you need me to do to help you get there? And he was busy as it was, right? So I don't know how he did that. And obviously he helped grow the women's game. I truly believe that. And there was a tweet that I actually, not a tweet, it was an Instagram post, and I screenshotted it because I was just like, this was Friday night. So I was just like in my feels, but I mean, I still am, but it was a soccer player, Lauren Sesselman. And she wrote, I will always remember how Grant was towards players when media was unkind. He would always write to us, telling us how much we mattered. You will be missed. And that's who Grant is. That's what he stood for. And like you mentioned, he always had the right questions and the hard ones too, but he wasn't afraid. He was just trying to give the people what we wanted, which was just the truth. And he did it so well.
He's a truth teller. That's exactly what he is. And he didn't shy away from the truth. And in this era of life, we are at an interesting crossroads where the value of people like Grant, and I can't say there are others that I know like him, but the value of people who are determined to share truth, to get the facts right, to tell the hard stories, to ask the right questions. And when he tells the hard stories, have so much compassion in the ways in which he's doing it, thinking about the lives he's impacting. The women's game here really needed allies like Grant Wahl to cover those matches, cover those stories, write about those players. And now we're at a pivotal point where the women are getting paid this World Cup.
Yes. I love it.
Deservedly so. It's about time.
100%.
And
1,000%.
Absolutely, Grant had something to do with that.
He did. Yeah. I'm like, yeah, I'm trying to hold it together. Yeah, he definitely did. And he was just a true believer. And he always, like you mentioned, like nowadays, sometimes, people are worried about how they can stay relevant. For him, it wasn't about popularity. It was about just loving the game and growing it. And I think that's why it came off so genuine, because he was, and he didn't care about all that stuff. And even, I truly admire him, after he was laid off, by SI, and he mentioned it to me and I was shocked. I mean, he had been there for years, and it's freaking Grant Wahl. But that shows like it's not an easy business. And let's be honest, our jobs are based off of really if people enjoy watching us, if they enjoy reading our stuff, truly. And it only takes one person to decide that they don't like us, or for one person to decide that, we're not good. And then the one thing that you love the most is taken away from you just like that. But Grant was like, no, I'm staying. Like, I'm going to figure this out. Like, this is my passion. I love soccer. And I admire him for that, because I mean, what he was doing with his podcast and grantwahl.com, like, he refused to quit.
I was only waiting for him to share with us what was next. Yeah, though I've been removed from soccer in the last 5 years, the pandemic really kind of put the nail in that coffin for me, though I have continued to be an analyst for Pac-12. It was still watching Grant. I was still keeping up with Grant, and if I needed a story, if I was looking for updates, I was looking to Grant. And and he, let's be honest, was the gold standard for football storytelling in the United States. And I mean soccer storytelling. He's the gold standard. And we have lost not only an incredible human being, but a wealth of knowledge in our ways. And I mean, I come from Lummi Nation, a tribe up here in Pacific Northwest. And when we lose elders and we lose people that have the experience of traveling, of culture, of language, we lose libraries. And with Grant gone, we've lost a whole library on football in America. We've lost a library of what it means to grow the game of soccer in America.
Yeah. Yeah. Ah, nailed it. Yeah. He was like the one person that I feel like I trusted. Like whatever he said, I was like, yep. And I'm not gonna lie, this morning I was like who's gonna fill that for me? You know? Like it's
Because he told
hard.
the truth.
Yeah.
Because he told the truth.
Yeah.
He did the work. He had the relationships to tell the truth.
Yeah, he did. And at the same time, like he always led with kindness. Like I love that everyone is saying that because it's true. And uh he knew how to be a good friend, which is so hard, right? In not only in this business but in life, right? Because you can easily become someone who you don't want to be. It's easy, or to kind of just not continue with certain friendships or relationships. But I don't know how he did it, but he managed to balance it out to where it's so beautiful to see like all of the love and all of the like the impact he's made. Because like forget a mentor, he was more of a friend, right? That you could rely on, and he would always cheer you on.
I will be paying attention, as so will the rest of soccer fans in America, and really sports fans, to hear what kind of closure that the family can get, and his return, and if there's any celebrations of his life. I want to know.
I agree. Yeah, I keep checking for updates, and yeah, I'm sure it'll take a while, but yeah, I'm just like I'm bummed. I'm like, I'll wish I could have said thank you, and
Yep, me too.
right, just thank you, and thank you for everything, and for the friendships, for building the game, for the opportunities, for the stories, the fun times, um, because there was a lot. If you had Grant in your life, like I'm sure we're all thinking there were so many thank yous that we did not get to say.
Yep, me too. Thanks for alerting me. I was shocked. I was like, "What?
Yeah.
What happened?" And I think that's, it's really hard.
Yeah.
It's really hard. Grief is really hard when you
Yeah.
don't have answers.
Yeah. I
And then
agree.
even when you do, it doesn't get easier. It just, you have some closure perhaps. And gosh, my heart, I just want to say that, like you said, the power couple of Dr. Celine and Grant and their perspective paths, what I see, the thread of visibly what I can see from where I stand. And I don't think I ever had the opportunity to meet his wife, but what I see is that they're both incredible humans who are working, have dedicated their lives to bettering other people's lives.
Yes. Oh, I
And
agree.
Celine is saving lives,
Yeah.
and who knows what the stories that Grant has written. We know
Yeah.
the power of media. We know it. We
Yeah.
know it, and we know the power of global football. We know it, and
Yeah.
Grant's stories reached across this world.
Literally. Oh, I love it. Yeah. Yeah. All my love to Dr. Celine and Eric Wahl
Yeah.
and the rest of their family. But we're with you, and we will be. And I'll end it with this story. It's crazy. I'm telling you, my brain. But suddenly just memories trickle down, and you're like, what? But I met Dr. Celine. It was like Thanksgiving 2014. She has family here in Houston, and Grant and Dr. Celine were in town, and I think earlier that year, Dr. Celine's mom and sister, I think Grant told me they lived here. I was like, let me treat them to a Dynamo game. Like I loved doing that. And then as a thank you, it was like 2 days after Thanksgiving, actually, 2014, he was like, hey, we're going to be in town. Like, do you want to come by just as a thank you? And I was able to go for an hour, and the nicest people. And I truly know that Grant will be watching over them and us. And I know we could talk for hours about him, but I think that's enough tears for now.
Yeah. Well, there's more to come. There's more to come. And, and the story isn't finished. So
yeah, I agree. And yeah, I think it's safe to just leave it with, keep being kind, stand for what you believe in, don't stop pursuing your passions, love, and take care of each other.
Yeah, thanks for having me. This was a beautiful but hard thing to like be on here for, but this is perfect. I'm happy to have this space.
Thank you. Yeah, I was supposed to have Grant on next month, so
really,
you were the perfect person though to come on.
Oh my god, you're gonna have him on World Cup recap.
Yeah, it's so crazy. I was hoping to have him on like while he was in Qatar, but I did notice how busy he was. Like I noticed his schedule. I noticed that he was everywhere.
Yeah. So, I mean, the World Cup is nuts. You don't have time for
Right. Yeah. And yes. And then like that just because as a friend, I was like, you know what? I don't want to add to that because I noticed that. So for yesterday, I was like, I should have asked him, but I feel okay that I wasn't part of that hectic schedule. That's what's making me feel better. But yeah, I was planning to chat with him next month, like you mentioned the recap, but I want to tell myself, hey, at least he was doing what he loved the most. It still doesn't help, but
yeah, I mean, to some degree, it's like, yeah. And no.
I love you so much, Tem.
I love you, Steph.
Thank you so much for chatting with me.
You're my person. You're gorgeous on the phone too.
We need to chat again and talk about all that. Yeah, how we met, your career, and I would love to have you back so we can talk about those things.
Yeah, let's do it. Yeah. I love you, sis.
I love you. Love you, BFFLS. Thank you so much.
Yeah, thanks for this. Big hug.